Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers, and I'm going to explain all about Craven Week. I'm stood on the little back pitches here at Her School Monument where the Monash boys play, and this is one of the proud, traditional and powerhouses of South African rugby, and this week playing host to 16 provincial teams and the best under 18 talent that there is across South Africa. It's staggering. It has blown my mind. So for the benefit of other people like myself who didn't even know what this is, I thought I would take a bit of time and just explain Craven Week. If you love your rugby, if you get value from the channel, please do hit subscribe. It means a lot. Give the video a thumbs up to help me spread the word, and leave your comments down below. I've learned not just a lot about South African rugby, I've learned a lot about South Africans full stop in the short time that I've been here so far. Very, very generous, incredibly hospitable bunch of people. I've been taken out for meals. I keep trying to buy other people a meal or a drink, and I keep getting told my money is no good here. Such a warm welcome. People look you in the eye and say hello, even strangers, and really, really good bunch of folk, and they absolutely love their rugby. I've also learned, just FYI, in case you come, it's rude to turn down an offer of something. So there was someone stood next to me as I watched the game yesterday who kept offering me biltong by the kilo, and eventually I said thank you, but I'm okay. And I got a look that said to me, you don't say no. Or maybe that's just because it's meat. In South Africa you don't say no to meat. I've had a springbok fillet steak, I've had lots of beef, I've had lots of biltong. It's no wonder that this is the land of giants, something that you definitely see both in the Springbok national team and here at under 18 level. There are some absolutely massive units. So, well, let's get into it then. Let me tell you all about Craven Week. But before I do, I just want to take a moment to thank the people that are helping make this video possible, helping me on this trip to South Africa, A New Hotels and Resorts. I'm staying at A New Hotel, Rudaport, which has been lovely. The lovely deck looking over the lake has been, well, it's been mine exclusively because, well, to everyone else, this is winter and they're all wearing coats. But this is, well, where I'm from, this is summer, so that's been lovely. One of the things I've appreciated most, sounds a bit sad to say, but the TV. There's every channel you could possibly want, including Supersport. So when I've needed a lie-in after the long travel, I needn't miss any of the Craven Week action because it's been on the screen as well. So thank you again to A New Hotels and Resorts, and you should get to anewhotels.co.za if you need a home from home, and the next time you're in South Africa or planning a trip, make them part of it. So Craven Week started 60 years ago this year as a celebration and a showcase of the best under 18 talent in the country, with players who would represent their province from all over the country and play against each other across 1 week. It continues today in 2024 as big and as good as ever. It's broadcast live on Supersport. There's the TV cameras here, the big screen, there's TMOs, there's rugby legends popping by, there's scouts, there's coaches from all over the world, not just within South Africa. This is a breeding ground and a showcase for some of the finest young talent on planet Earth. So it's not officially a tournament as such. 16 sides from the unions around South Africa send teams. They officially just play each other, but make no mistake, by Saturday's final match, that is a grand final, and there will be a champion of Craven Week, official or unofficial, and it means a lot to the lads that are playing. I've spoken to many of them, and this is a week that they've been aiming towards for years, playing through schoolboy rugby. There is Craven Week at lower levels, but this is the elite tier. There's also a second tier competition going on up the road at Jeppe High School, where there's another 19 teams going head to head in the tournament below. The sheer quantity and quality and size of South African schoolboy rugby is on another level. And so it's called Craven Week, named after the legend Doc Craven, Dani Craven, who was a Springbok head coach. He's called Doc Craven because he had 2 PhDs, an academic as well. Very, very smart man. And he was an incredible rugby thinker, ahead of his time, a maverick, an enigma. And he did so much as an administrator to push South African rugby forward, and was part of setting up this competition, which now is named in his honour. There's also a stadium at Stellenbosch University named in his honour as well. So he is quite the legend. Mr. Rugby he was known as in South Africa, and his influence is so deep 60 years on that there is no doubt in my mind that his fingerprints are all over the style of other coaches and in the DNA of guys like Rassie Erasmus now. 16 sides that are going head to head. So that means, just a bit of quick maths, about 700 rugby players will be representing their unions on the pitch behind me. 700. I mentioned the other competition that's going on up the road with 19 teams, so that's another 1,000. Just let that sink in for a second. 1,700 boys at under 18 level are showcasing their wares, and that's just 1 year. But also here at Monash at the moment are representatives from clubs around the world. There's been representatives from English Premiership clubs, from French top 14 clubs. There are agents here. In fact, I spoke to one agent who said that he thinks around about 50% of all of the boys that are taking part in Craven Week are already under representation from an agent. So that is minimum, and by the end of the week many more will be the case as well. So that is 300, and let this sink in, 350 of these boys minimum, more by the end of the week, have agents that are out there trying to earn them a professional contract, a university scholarship at clubs in South Africa and all around the world. So is it any wonder whatsoever why rugby players are South Africa's finest export? So I've already spoken with one guy who showcased his talents at this tournament so far, the Boland fly half, Luan Guillemy. Hope I'm getting your name right there. Luan, awesome player. But Luan said to me that 2 months ago he signed professional terms with the Sharks. And it is no wonder, because there are, like I said, agents from all around the world just waiting to tap these players up and to get them over there. There's one guy in particular, he'll be playing in the next game here today at Craven Week, Jacques Borta, who plays at this school. He's a Monash boy, and he is 6'9". He is 128 kilograms. To put that in context, that's bigger than Ebenezer, and the kid is 17 years young. He is, being courted by, could well be signed by Stade Francais. That move to France worked out quite well for Paul Willemse. So yeah, I quite understand why the provinces want to get these contracts wrapped up where they can. I know with the Western Province team that I saw play yesterday, 4 of the starting pack have signed professional terms, and by the end of the week it's thought that at least half the back line will have done likewise. The talent level is absolutely insane. And just think about it like this: you could make a team of players that aren't in the Springbok squad that are based in South Africa. You could make a team of players that aren't in the Springbok squad based around the world. You could make a team of players that are South African but are representing other nations, and every single one of those teams would give any other international team a run for their money. And the engine that drives that is schools rugby and under 18s rugby, and obviously we've got the under 20 World Cup in South Africa, which starts this week. So Craven Week is a rite of passage for the guys that we see on the TV representing the Springboks. This is a rite of passage. It would have been a focus for them in their younger days. The greats have passed through this competition and shown what they're about, and then progressed. The one thing that I can't help but think, with, like I say, just go back to those numbers. 700 boys are here this week. There's another 1,000 just up the road at Yeppe School in the Tier 2 version of this competition, and that was last year and the year before, and it will be next year and the year after, and every single year. You cannot possibly find professional contracts for all of those players, or even a fraction of those players. So what happens to the boys that don't make it, whose ambitions and dreams aren't realised? Well, what I've learned from many of the fathers that are in the stand who were good schoolboy players themselves back in their day, what I've learned is that quite often when the professional contract dream ends, the playing career ends. There's a lot of guys who don't continue much into their 20s as rugby players if they don't make it. And in that sense, what I've learned more and more is that South African rugby is more like the NFL in America, certainly, than it is English rugby, which has come as a complete surprise to me. In America, it's very much focused around the high school and the college system, and then the players go on to represent NFL sides. Same goes in South Africa. Schoolboy rugby is absolutely huge. I'm hoping we'll be going to Affies against Maritzburg ahead of the second test in Durban, because I want to sample one of those big traditional South African schoolboy games. Some of the big matches, Paarl Gym against Paarl High School boys, 20,000 people will turn up. It's absolutely insane. And so schools rugby's huge, varsity rugby, university is massive, and then you've got the provinces. But the drop off if you're not playing for one of those in one of those setups is massive. Now, what quite often gets mentioned is that English rugby, in England, there are more registered rugby players than any other country. And that is true. And that's quite often a stat which gets thrown as a reason why England should be better at rugby and should be dominating sides like South Africa. But there's a big difference. In England, those registered rugby players are for the most part amateur. There's a rich and a really big and a huge pyramid of amateur rugby which goes right down, so that players, if they don't make it when they're 18 or 21, they still play rugby until many people play rugby into their 40s and even 50s at amateur very low levels. And that is why England have such a high number of registered rugby players, but why South Africa's ceiling on their young and elite talent seems higher than any other country on earth. It's something that I find absolutely fascinating, and learning more and more why it is that the youth level of rugby in South Africa is world leading. And it's no surprise, therefore, for the last 5 years, and maybe who knows for years to come, the South African national team have been the world leaders as well. That's the scary part for me, is that South Africa are the world champions back to back, and more than anyone else. They've got the most incredible youth setup, as I've learned, but they could get even better. That's what I find scary. There's one way that they're getting better as well, and that is in what South African rugby now looks like. I'm looking out on this pitch here, and you see the country of South Africa looking like the players that are on show. How you doing?
Hi.
Are you alright?
Yeah, do you want ice cream?
Is that... Oh, top man. Top man, how you doing? See what I mean? Lovely, lovely people. So yeah, as I look out, what was I saying? As I look out on the pitch, the teams look like the nation of South Africa in all its colours, and obviously that was done through affirmative action and quota systems initially. And Rassie Erasmus has had a huge part to play there. He has embraced the change, leaned right into it, and now organically, rugby is reaching out into communities that it hasn't historically, and consequently, the fear for the rest of the world. And my prediction is, I think South African rugby is only going to get better. Watch out, world.